Good morning, 7th graders and Clinton. I can't believe that this school year is almost over and we're starting a new chapter. We probably won't get quite finished with it. However, I told you that I wasn't going to do any videos the last Monday and Tuesday of next week. If I do videos on Monday and Tuesday of next week, I'll be able to finish the book completely. So I'm probably going to go ahead and record those videos. However, I'm not going to require you to watch them unless you want to. But being OCD, and it would drive me crazy just to finish when I am so close to finishing this book. And so if you'd like to continue with the lessons and end it with me, that's fine. I'm still going to record it, but you don't have to watch them, okay? So we are on our last chapter, chapter 20, and we will be on pages 368 through 371 today. And I'm going to go over and have a little bit of a review. We're going to just talk about we're going to kind of end everything up. And so let me just go over the timeline with you. The title is The Global Community, and we are on the years 1945 to 2012. This is probably the last time they wrote the book, or they updated the book. So this book is due to be updated pretty soon. But we still will be able to finish some of this other things that are happening now, which is great because in a few years when they update this book, this coronavirus thing is going to be part of it, and you will be part of history. So if you just quickly look at the timeline, by the way, my shout out today will be, oh my goodness, I had it in my head, will be, my shout out today will be Clinton, and will be Isaiah. Clinton and Isaiah. It was in my mind and I forgot, okay? So in 1960, Central American Common Market is formed in the 1960s. We're going to talk about that. And the development of the internet for the military in 1960s. Iran is taken over by radical Muslim forces in 1979, and Iran holds 52 American hostages in 1979 through 81. Saddam Hussein attacks Iran in 1980. Hussein attacks Kuwait and threatens Saudi Arabia in 1990. And Afghanistan comes under the Taliban's control in 1990s. New York Twin Towers are bombed in 1993, and then they are again attacked and destroyed, and the Pentagon is destroyed in September of 11th, 2001. Okay, Hussein is tried and executed in December of 2006. ISIS emerges from Al-Qaeda in 2014, and then the world population surpasses 7.4 billion in 2016. And that's what we're going to actually talk about today, population growth in the world, which is going at a tremendous rate. The big ideas for this chapter is how does the Bible's teaching about creation, fall, and redemption shape your thinking about culture and civilization? It just depends on your worldview and what it's like. Why are covenants God made with Israel important for understanding world history? And in what ways was the incarnation of Christ the turning point of world history? Our outline for today is environmental trends, population shifts, the stable or declining, and growth at various rates. Our guiding questions: what are population shifts? How was urban life developed? And what are the theories of climate change? And our thing is going to be talking about environmental trends. All right, so I'm going to pull out my notes right here and we will get started. Okay, the number population, basically the definition of population is the number of people in a particular area. Depending on the area you live in or the country you live in, or the city you live in, or the state, the population varies, right? So in California, we have more people than the people of Wyoming, which has more cattle than they do people. And so it just depends on the state. Okay, the human population is projected to reach 8 billion in 2024, and it may reach 9.5 billion by 2050. If the Lord doesn't come back, that's how crazy and packed this world's going to be. Okay? So, like I said before, depending on the country, there will be an increase in population or a decrease in population. Sometimes poverty, sometimes disease, sometimes the birth rate will put into factor whether or not a country is populated or not. All right. Europe is an example of population decline. Most nations in Europe are experiencing a decline in population due to low birth rates. If people aren't being born, right, their population's not going to, increase. The United States doesn't have a huge birth rate as far as increasing the population, but the United States is gaining population through immigrants, people who come from other countries. So that's how we are able to keep our country stable. Now, we've seen throughout studying history how different continents and different countries change over time. A thriving population, like when we talked about Rome or Egypt, in the Bible, how it was thriving and then famine hit, or the 10 plagues hit and kind of destroyed the country. Over time, a powerhouse or this big country could be destroyed after war. That's what happened to a lot of these powerhouse countries. And then remember, we talked about the Soviet Union and the United States being the two big countries after that came out of the war. Germany had to rebuild. And so a lot of that kind of stuff could decline. So what kind of difficulties could a declining population face? Think about it. What are some of the things that a country can face as far as decline? Maybe they don't have enough jobs for people. That could be a reason, and so people will leave the country. I know that there's people who have moved out of California because it's too expensive, or they've moved to a certain place because there are no job opportunities, which was basically what I said. So if they don't have the resources to accomplish the needs in the country, they don't have the resources. So if it's something that if the person's working with electricity and he's got a training for electricity, but he lives in a rural area where you don't need a lot of that, then he's gonna end up leaving. If he's trained in cattle or agriculture and he's living in the city, then he's not gonna be able to put his training to use. All right, and you'll see that people are gonna start moving into the urban areas, the cities, to have more job opportunities and more successes in life. All right, immigrants could be brought in and then will eventually dominate the declining countries in a lot of these scenarios. I'm going to show you this map of Latin America, India, and China. So Latin America, India, and China are the three places where population has grown immensely in a big way, especially China, okay? They have produced the fastest growing populations. And this will create a change in population shift because of the growth the regions are experiencing, having to provide safe drinking water and sanitation and even jobs, okay? For a long time, China was growing so quickly that they had a rule that only the family could only have one child. It was a one child per family. And a lot of these countries, or a lot of these people didn't want little girls, so you would find a lot of Chinese little girls in orphanages because it was very popular, or it was their culture in getting a son so that the son can carry on the father's name. It was a lot like that. But India is gradually, and they say in about 10 years, it's going to get bigger than China. However, in India, a lot of the areas in India are very poor areas, same with China, and they don't have the resources to handle all these people. So a lot of these cities, or a lot of these towns, have starving people, or it's just a lot of disease because there's nothing there to help them create a better environment. Hopefully, I wanted to tell you that yesterday I got off the phone. You remember when I was talking to you about my friend from Romania, and I had sent him a message, and it was an incredible story. This is kind of like off the record. I'm kind of going shifting here because I wanted to tell you, he called me last night, and I hadn't talked to him in, about 20 years, well, actually since I graduated from high school, so that was even longer than 20 years. And he called me, and he said that it would probably be easier to talk to him live than it would be for him to type everything out. So he basically told me that it was his uncle that came here first, and his uncle was working in a shoe factory under the KGB, and he wanted to go on this trip to Austria, and so the KGB was allowing him to go. But when the KGB told him before he went on the trip, they told him, do not sign up for asylum, political asylum, which means that you can go to a free country and try to get freedom through them. We're trying to help these people. Well, he didn't think anything of it. He was supposed to be there for a month, but after 2 weeks, he actually went to the police department there and signed up. And what he says, they used to joke for a long time, is how it was the communist government that actually told him to defect to another country. So eventually he ends up in America, and he has brothers and sisters still in Romania, and one by one they end up coming. Well, Mantika's mom worked really, really hard to get them here. So he said they actually came to America legally. He came when he was 9 years old, but he says he remembers how he would take a tram from his one city to the next city, and they would stuff Bibles in his backpack. And it was very illegal. If you got caught with Bibles, you were considered to go to jail. And so they figured that no one would search a 9-year-old little boy, and so he would take the Bibles back, give them to his family, and they would hide them under the ground and whatever. I asked him if he got caught, if he would be punished, and he says no, but his parents would have been tortured and thrown into jail. So it's an amazing story of how he said he remembers being in elementary school, and after school there was a bakery that was just across the street from his school, and he would go there after school every day and stand in line to get bread to take home. And he said that he'd be there about 4 hours, and sometimes when he got to the front, the bread was all gone because it was sold out. His mom got up earlier in the morning to get meat and bread and things to eat, and sometimes that wouldn't work out. So just a long story short, it was kind of really neat being able to talk to him, and this was communist Romania, and he says he remembers. He came to the States in 83, he said, or something like that. I can't remember exactly the date, but way before Romania became free. And so just being thankful that we have a free country. He says now all his family's here. He met when he went back to visit in Romania, of course it's not communist anymore, he met his wife over there, and he's got a beautiful family. I showed you the picture yesterday. So I was really excited to talk to him and learn the history of Romania. And there's also some books. I mentioned that one yesterday. There's another one. This one that I mentioned yesterday was one about a little girl. And I said that her dad died. Her dad didn't die, but it tells you how he was in prison. He went to Siberia in prison for years. And then also there's another one called Tortured for Christ. So they're really good stories that you can read. They're, you know, the Tortured for Christ, the guy's now in heaven because it happened a while ago. But those are, if this stuff interests you and you want to read more about it and see how people suffer serving the Lord in other countries, then you can go ahead and look those up. All right, so now back to the population growth. So we talked about people who used to live in the country, but now are living in the urban life is growing because industrialization is bringing people to the city for better jobs. You remember all the infrastructure and all the cities. People today are still moving to the cities. I remember when we first moved here in Morgan Hill in 2000, it was just, you know, it was a nice town. We used to call it, it was a city with a small town feeling. Not anymore. Now, to get home from school to Morgan Hill could take an hour to get home. And it's crazy how traffic is so much now because people are moving into Morgan Hill. They're moving into Gilroy, and it's a pain in the neck, but it's just growing everywhere, Morgan Hill. It's just everywhere you look, it's like, we call it the Lego town. They're just putting things right next to each other. In the early 1900s, the largest cities were located in Europe and in North America. But currently, 8 out of the 10 largest cities are in Asia or in Latin America. I'm going to show you some pictures. They showed some pictures, and I'm going to show you some pictures of these cities that we get to experience. So hopefully, sorry, I'm going to just have to do it this way. So here we have New York, America, you know, that's so pretty. Then we have Shanghai. These are some really, really amazing, I'm going to move that so it's not so, cities in the world. Paris, France. That would be a beautiful place to visit. The city of love. Tokyo, Japan. These are all the big cities. London, England. Some of these are in your book. Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. You see the big old statue of Jesus. That's a very popular place that people like to go look at. Moscow, Russia. Sydney, Australia. I used to think I wanted to go to Sydney, Australia, but after reading about all the bugs, Johannesburg, South Africa. That's really pretty. Mexico City, Mexico. And then you have Toronto, Canada. You have that big old tower. That's kind of cool. So those are some of the cities the big cities in the world that people actually go look at. And they're beautiful, I think. And it also is amazing how we know that God created man to create those cities, to make those cities, and they're striving and growing, okay? Let's see. So we talked about Latin America. Actually, go back to China. I guess I should show it to you. So here's China. Okay, see China? Can you see it? All right, so China, some facts about China, and we've already discussed China, so we won't really go in big detail. China has several cities that should continue to grow steadily as the world's population moves to cities for better living conditions and improved job opportunities. Between the years, here's a statistic, between the years 2000 and 2010, 84 of the world's 300 fastest growing cities are in China. And then after China, we discussed Africa. Now here's an example of a continent that's the opposite of China, okay? Let me see, here it goes. It is currently the world's least urbanized continent because it has mostly rural living. Rural living is, farming and things like that. They are continuing to grow at a modest rate of 3%. Then you have Latin America. Okay, Latin America, which is right underneath the United States. All right. Okay, hold on. Where'd my notes go? Oh, there they are. Okay, so Latin America's cities are growing at a rate of 19%, but this does not represent all of Latin America countries. So some countries like Brazil is going to grow faster than maybe, I can't even think. I had an example here. Guatemala. Argentina. Okay, so Argentina urban growth was over 11%, while Guatemala was over 40%. So that is kind of like the median of Latin America. It's between those two countries. The growth of cities contains many problems, like I said before, such as housing. Where are we going to put these people? That's the problem that they're having in Morgan Hill right now. Where are we going to put these people? They're all moving in here because it's not quite as expensive as San Jose, but it's still really expensive. Proper sanitation and transportation for that many people. Are we going to provide buses? Are we going to provide taxis? Subway systems. However, this also provides new opportunities to spread the gospel through national believers and missionaries. We're able to come in. A lot of these countries are free to go and spread the gospel to now. Now, I looked up some information about our city, San Jose. Most of us live in San Jose. I don't live in San Jose. I live in Morgan Hill, but I'm actually talking about San Jose because this is where our school is from, right? And so in 2018, the population of San Jose was 1,030,119 people. And this year is the year that we take a census. That means people go around, and every 10 years this happens, and they'll re-add up the people. But it's probably going to be basically the same. It is the third most populated city in California, and is the 10th most populated city in the United States. It is the center of the Santa Clara Valley, Bay Area, right? And we call it the Silicon Valley area too, because of all the businesses that are in this area, San Jose, Santa Clara area. It is on the southern shore of the San Francisco Bay. It covers an area of 179.97 square miles. And I never knew this. San Jose is named after Joseph in the Bible, who was Jesus's stepfather. He's Saint Joseph, and that's where San Jose gets his name from, Joseph. So that was pretty interesting. If you have more facts that you want to look up about your city, that's fine. Those of you that were in my 4th grade California history class, we did a lot of study on San Jose, even to more of an extent of this, but it's very interesting. Okay, so now let's talk about global warming. You've heard that. It's a big topic now. Global warming or climate change. Climate change is related to global warming. It's the theory that the earth is warming and that this is due to man-made emissions. Man-made emissions are things that man has made, such as like hairspray or the cars that we drive, barbecues and things that we put in the air. That's not healthy. Smog, all right? And then medieval warm period, we talked about this few chapters back when we were talking about the medieval times and things like that. The warming of the climate in Europe in the beginning of the 11th century. Okay, so this happened. This allowed the farmers to have a longer growing season. So a lot of these shifts in the climate take place naturally. there's a lot of controversy, a lot of, people that are climate change, and you have to drive these types of cars, and they talk about global warming, but this changes all the time from the Ice Age to, that's just how God created things, and that's how this world works, okay? Some periods are warmer and allow greater food production, while others are cooler and they reduce the food production. Some scientists today believe that the actions we take are causing global warming and are changing the Earth's temperature. Your book talks about several questions that we need to ask about this, and some of the questions, oh, wait a minute. Oh, there it is. Is the Earth warming beyond normal cycles? If the Earth is warming, is that a bad thing? If the Earth is warming, has man done anything to cause it? And are the proposed measures to curb climate change sensible? So those are things that we're actually not really going to discuss. Those are some things that you can think about, the individual, and study it and see if you think that it is important. Okay, it is important to take care of all the resources that God has given us, but sometimes it is impossible for us to know what is going on in our environment. So like I'm saying, you don't have to go and destroy the world and litter and things like that. You can take care of it, but you don't have to go overboard either. So the big picture today, closing up this lesson, populations in countries shift to be stable or declining. Many countries in Europe are experiencing a decline in population, and 8 of the 10 largest cities are in Asia or Latin America. And then the last one is man causing climate change, right? An interesting fact for today before you leave, or I'm done, is in 2005, archaeologists discovered a 4,000-year-old bowl of noodles in China. Yummy! I love ramen noodles, but if I found a 4,000-year-old bowl of ramen noodles, it would make me think, have I been eating that all these years? Yuck. Anyway, have a great day. I love you guys. You're almost done. Stick to it. Finish with a bang, and hopefully we'll be able to get together soon. Praying. I miss you guys so very much, and I hope that you all make great choices.